Welcome to a brand new episode of Picks with Rich. I am Rantin' Rich, and as always, I want to thank you for watching the show today. UFC 244 is going down this Saturday, November 2nd, 2019 at MSG. It's going to be headlined by this guy, Jorge Masvidal, and this guy, Nate Diaz. I'm going to give you my picks. Stay tuned. What's up, everybody? Rantin' Rich here, back for another one. UFC 244 is going down this weekend. It's going to be headlined by Jorge Masvidal and Nate Diaz. This is the BMF. This is the BMF. We've been waiting weeks for this. The baddest title is on the line. The first ever. UFC heard Nate Diaz's request, took that name and ran with it. And they actually made an official belt. And then at co-main event, we have Kevin Gastelum versus Darren Till. Should be a good one. This whole event really is stacked with a few good names in there, so I'm pretty excited about it. The odds aren't too crazy. There are a few that I saw early and I do like, so gonna get into that. Let's not waste any more time. Let's not have this video too long. Let's get into it. UFC 244, here are my picks. Check it out.
Okay, so let's start with the very first fight of the night on the early prelims. These should be on Fight Pass, but continue to check during the week. I know they change them sometimes. 6:30 on the East, 3:30 on the West. At 145 pounds, we have Julio Arce versus Hakeem Dawodu. Arce is the underdog at a plus 110, and Dawodu is the slight favorite at a minus 130. Pretty close fight, almost even. Starting with Arce, he is 16-3 in his professional career, 4-1 in the UFC, coming off of that first season of Dana White's Contender Series back in 2017. He's been in there for a little while, but he's been doing really well since he's gotten there. Only lost one fight, but his last fight was he's actually coming off of a KO win against Julian Erosa, and this was back in May of this year, so doing pretty well. So moving on to Dawodu, he is 10-1 in his professional career, 3-1 in the UFC, coming off of 3 wins in a row. If anybody's seen him fight, you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. He's a great stand-up fighter, great Muay Thai and kickboxer. Out of his 11 fights, he's got 7 KO wins on his record, so that's saying something. Now, I do like Dawodu in this, but I don't want to take him as a single bet. I think this fight's a little too close for that, but I like him enough to put him on a parlay, so I'm going to get to that in just a few minutes, but I'm going to put him on a 2-fighter parlay. Let's move on to the second fight of the night. At 170 pounds, we have Lyman Good versus Chance Recountre. Good is the favorite at a minus 125, and Chance is the underdog at a plus 105. So far, both of these fights are pretty close. That's always a good thing. Starting off with Good, he is 20-5 in his professional career, 2-2 in the UFC. He's a New York native, so that may sway the judges if it goes to decision. 34 years old, and most of his wins have been by KO TKO, similar to Dawodu. Moving on to Chance Recountre, coming out of Bellator. Of course, he's had some UFC fights, assuming UFC experience. He is 14-3 in his professional career, 2-1 in the UFC Octagon. He's fighting out of Alliance MMA, so very experienced. He's been around for a little while now. He's a well-rounded fighter. I wouldn't say any one thing is really that much stronger than the other. I personally don't like this fight. I'm encouraging you, anybody that does like either of these fighters, to go ahead, because it's a very close fight, almost even. Even if you bet and your fighter loses, you're not going to be crying over it. So I say go for it if you want to, but I'm going to stay away from this fight. Okay, so third fight of the night. This is the last fight on the early prelims. We have Katlyn Chookagian versus Jennifer Maia. Chookagian's coming in as the favorite at a minus 155, and Maia is the underdog at a plus 135. This fight is also somewhat close, not as close as the others, but I mean, you could almost call this even as well. This is at 125 pounds. I'm going to start off with Katlyn Chookagian. She is 12-2 in her professional career, 5-2 in the UFC. She's a very well-rounded fighter. Again, I can't pick one thing over the other that I see when she fights that's dominant on her. She's fought some big names in her career, that's for sure. Coming out of Jersey, she's a Jersey fighter, so she could, I guess, be called the hometown. She's probably gonna be the fan favorite there. Her biggest advantage, I would say, and even though Jennifer Maia is a great boxer, Chookagian has got a 4-inch reach on her. Now, I've said this before, most people may not think that's a big deal. to me is definitely a big deal, especially when you start talking like 4, 5, 6, 7 inch reach advantage. You got to talk about that. So let's move on to Maia. Again, she is the underdog, just a slight underdog at a plus 135. She is 17-5-1 in her professional career, 2-1 in the UFC. Coming from Invicta FC, she's had a few fights in the UFC, but that was her base for a while before she came over. She's coming off of 2 wins in a row, which is pretty good. And she's more into the whole boxing thing, like I had said. She's really going to have to play that in and out game, in and out the pocket, I feel, because Chookagian, she's quick on her feet. She can really get it done, and she's got that reach. And honestly, she's been around the organization, and we all know the UFC obviously is the best organization, but she's been around the organization for a little longer, so I think she might have just a little bit more confidence, but who knows? I'm not betting this fight, so I'm just saying what's on paper, what I've seen in the past out of these fighters. So those are my 3. Again, Dawodu, we're going to get to him in a few minutes. Let's move on to the prelims. Okay, so let's move into these are the regular prelims. These are supposed to be on ESPN2, 8 o'clock Eastern, 5 o'clock Pacific time. Heavyweights going at it. Andre Arlovski versus Jairzinho Rozenstruik. Wow, try to say that 5 times fast. Let's start with Arlovski. He is a plus 135, slight underdog, and Rozenstruik is a minus 155. Arlovski is 28-18 in his professional career. He's been around for a long time. 7-8 in the UFC, 40 years old. I don't know if he has any plans anytime soon to hang it up, but he's been doing his thing for quite a while. Coming off of a win to Ben Rothwell back in July. But before that, he was on a decent losing streak. So, again, I don't know how many fights he has on his contract. I don't know how long he plans on doing this, but he's coming off of a win. That's all you can say. Moving on to Jairzinho. I'm going to go by his first name because that last name is killing me. A minus 155 favorite, 8-0 in his professional career, 2-0 in the UFC. Won his first 2 fights, and he's looking good. It's a great start for him. I don't know enough about him. I would probably lean more towards him than Andre. Andre, again, has been around for a long time, and I kind of think he needs to hang it up, personally. But really, at the end of the day, that's none of my business. But what I do know is I don't know enough to take Jairzinho, so I am going to leave this fight alone. Moving on to the 5th fight of the night at 185 pounds, we have Brad Tavares taking on Edmen Shahbazyan. Tavares is the underdog at a plus 110. Edmen is the favorite at a minus 130, so this is another close fight. I don't think we've had any huge odd differences since we started at the beginning. But anyway, going into Tavares, he is 17-5 in his professional career, 12-5 in the UFC, coming off of a loss to Israel Adesanya. He should not hang his head low. Israel is the champ, so there's a reason for that. Israel's good. Before that, though, he was on a 4-fight win streak, so that's something to say about him. Edmen Shahbazyan, don't know too much about him. I know he's got 4 wins in the UFC, including Dana White's Contender Series. That's where the UFC kind of founded him. Guys, I don't like this fight. I'm not going to get too much into it. I definitely want to watch. I think this is a very interesting fight to watch, but I'm not going to lay any money down on this one. Moving on to the 6th fight of the night. At 145 pounds, we have Shane Burgos versus Makwan Amirkhani. Burgos is the decent-sized favorite at a minus 250. Amirkhani is the underdog at a plus 210. Burgos is 12-1 in his professional career, 5-1 in the UFC. Coming off of 2 wins in a row. 1 win was beating Cub Swanson. He's a well-rounded fighter. I do like Shane Burgos a lot. Seen him fight quite a few times. Let's move on to Amirkhani. He is a good-sized underdog, so if anybody really likes Amirkhani, watch him fight. He's been around the UFC just as long as Burgos. 5-1 in the UFC. Doing pretty well. I would say this is a live dog, guys, so I'm not going to take him personally, but I kind of do like this being a live dog. Like I said, if you do like Amirkhani and you're familiar with him, or if you don't like Burgos and think this odd is way off, definitely take another look at Amirkhani at a plus 210. And let me tell you why. Amirkhani is also coming off of 2 wins in a row, just like Burgos, no big thing. And honestly, they match up pretty well. If you look at the stats, the fight history, yes, Burgos has fought better names, more reputable names than Amirkhani, but that doesn't always mean everything. And also, Amirkhani's got a slight advantage on the mat, I would say. 10 out of his 15 wins were by submission, so that's something to look out for too if he can take Burgos down. Puncher's chance on the feet, who knows? Again, I'm going to stay away from this one, but don't sleep on Amirkhani. Moving on to the 7th fight of the night. This is the last fight on the prelims. At 205 pounds, these are the light heavyweights going at it. Corey Anderson versus Johnny Walker. Anderson is the slight underdog at a plus 145, and Walker is the favorite at a minus 165. Let's start with Anderson. Anderson is 12-4 in his professional career, 9-4 in the UFC, coming off of 3 wins in a row. His last win was last December, so he hasn't fought in quite a while. That was against Yair Latifi. I've never been really into Anderson, and I hate, he can definitely grind out a fighter. He knows how to win. He knows how to get those decision wins. But I've also just, on a personal thing, I've always thought he was a boring fighter. He does have precise punching. I'll give him that. And his stamina for being a guy on the bigger side is pretty good. He knows how to wear down the fighters. He knows how to have one of those grinding fights, but he's just never been one of my favorites. Now, Johnny Walker, on the other hand, he is 17-3 in his professional career, 4-0 in the UFC. His last win was back in March, 4 wins in a row. I gotta say, he is very entertaining, and I like entertaining fighters. Anybody that's been watching the show long enough knows fighters like Anderson Silva, Israel Adesanya. There's a few in there that really get the crowd into it. They get me into it. I love when they're in there getting a little crazy, taking chances, and still dropping people at the same time. But I do have to say, with that, because Walker is definitely one of those fighters, he does get a little sloppy sometimes. He gets a little too into himself and is not as precise and as sharp as far as striking goes anyway, like Corey Anderson is. But if he connects and if he gets into his groove and hits Anderson, I can see him definitely knocking him out. I mean, he's a heavy hitter. 14 wins in his professional career have been by KO TKO. So I was speaking about the parlay earlier with Dawodu. I'm actually going to take both of these fighters on my parlay. 2-fighter parlay, Walker, Dawodu. I'm going to put $50 into it to potentially make $90 back. Okay, so getting into the good stuff, the main event, this is obviously on pay-per-view, 10 o'clock Eastern Time, 7 o'clock Pacific. Starting off with fight number 8 of the night. This is the first fight on the main card. We have Kevin Lee versus Gregor Gillespie. This is at 155 pounds. Lee is the underdog at a plus 145, and Gillespie is the favorite at a minus 165. Starting off with Lee, he is 17-5 in his professional career, 10-5 in the UFC, coming off of 2 losses in a row. He's had a very slippery time since he's been in the UFC. His record proves it. His cardio has for sure been an issue. He seems to always start off very strong and look promising, but then by the later rounds, he seems to fade fairly quickly. RDA took him out. That was one of his losses. Ally Quinta was the other one, so that was 2 in a row. He's fought some big names though, so I mean, you got to give it to him. I know one time he fought, and I forgot who it was. Maybe that was the Ally Quinta fight. He fought with staph infection. You could see it all over him, and it showed. I mean, his cardio was gone. His cardio was crap. He is a really good wrestler, so I think if he goes that route, that might be a better shot for him. His BJJ is pretty good as well. He's only 27 years old, so, if he loses this fight, I don't know exactly if the UFC is going to keep him around. He's got plenty of time to improve. Hopefully this is the fight that he does it. I really like him a lot, and I'm actually going to take him, but I'm going to get into that in a second. One thing that stands out, his reach. Get ready for it. He's got a 7-inch reach on Gillespie. A 7-inch reach on Gillespie. That's pretty good. Not to say that's going to win him the fight, but that's definitely an advantage if it stays on the feet. Now speaking of Gillespie, let me get into him. Again, he's the favorite at a minus 165. 13-0 in his professional career. 6-0 in the UFC. What more can you say about him? He's proven himself. Great kickboxer, coming off of a win to Yancy Medeiros back in January, so he hasn't had the roster that Lee has had. Lee has fought tougher opponents. That being said, I think Lee has been going down for so long that this is his chance to come back. I really feel that wrestling, or if they do keep it on the feet, that 7-inch reach is going to help him out a lot. So I'm going to go small in this one. I'm going to go $25 to make me 35. Now, I would suggest you guys stay in that range if you want to throw a little bit more on Lee. I would definitely suggest that. I wouldn't go any higher than $50. $50 will make you around 70, somewhere around that. I'm taking him for a single bet, $25. Ain't gonna hurt if he loses. So 9th fight of the night, another heavyweight fight. This is Derek Lewis versus Blagoy Ivanov. Lewis is coming in as the slight underdog at a plus 105, and Ivanov is the favorite at a minus 125. Lewis is 21-7 in his professional career, 12-5 in the UFC, coming off of 2 losses in a row. What's going on, Black Beast? Lewis is also another fighter that's fought some big names. We've seen some bizarre stuff out of him in the in the octagon. Very entertaining. He's another entertaining guy. The things that he says, the way that he fights, the way that he's won fights before, the way that he's lost fights before. So something about him is very entertaining, comical, very comical. Love watching him fight, but his stamina and being a big guy, it's a little bit more more common, obviously, but his stamina and the way he gets hit in the gut has been a serious problem. I know he's had some back issues, so hopefully he's in a right spot right now. Hopefully he's healthy. He's gone through this training camp smart, kind of knows what he's doing, kind of put his whole weight forward. Oh God, not to think about that, not his whole weight, but you know what I mean. We all know him to have some heavy hands, so that's a huge advantage. And he's got a 6-inch reach on Ivanov, which could give Ivanov even more trouble. Let's move on to Ivanov. 18-2 in his professional career, 2-1 in the UFC, coming off of 2 wins in a row. He's a more balanced fighter, but it's more about him being on the feet and being a little bit smarter, being more agile. Stamina's better, he's faster. As far as his stand-up percentage goes, it's almost twice as much as Lewis, so he's throwing more shots and hitting more targets with his significant strikes. But I'll say it again, with Lewis, he's got to keep his hands up. He cannot get clipped. One small shot from Lewis will end the night for him. But even with that being said, I do think Ivanov's bringing more skills to the table, so I'm going to take Ivanov. I like him. I'm going to take him for $60, and that's going to make me around $50. Moving on to the 10th fight of the night. This is at 170 pounds. We have Stephen Wonderboy Thompson versus Vincent Luque. Thompson is the favorite at a -130. Luque is the underdog at a +110. Another close fight. Starting with Thompson, he is 14-4-1 in his professional career, 9-4 in the UFC with 1 draw, coming off of a KO loss to Anthony Showtime Pettis, and that was mean. That looked really, really bad for him. I'm glad to see him back. Hopefully he learned something from that and is going to come back stronger, but that was a vicious knockout. He's got great stand-up. It's a little awkward. We've all seen him fight. We've all seen him move forward the way he does in that karate stance, but I don't know if that's... Maybe he should change it up. I don't know if that's really been working out for him lately. He brings a lot of skills to the table. He's fought some good fighters. He's been around for a long time. He's a very skilled fighter. I don't want to take anything away from him, but I just think that he's very stiff with that karate stance altogether, but he needs to switch it up. Maybe go to a boxing or a Muay Thai type of stance. Go from southpaw to orthodox. Switch it up a little bit. Moving on to Vincent Luque, he is 17-6-1 in his professional career, 10-2 in the UFC, coming off of a split decision win to Mike Perry. He's got heavy hands. I think that's definitely going to be a problem. We've seen Thompson go down in the past. I definitely think that's going to be a problem for him, but I'm not going to take this one. I could see Luque actually beating him, but if Thompson's on his game, he's sharp, he's learned, like I said, he's learned from the past, keeps his hands up, switches that stance up, who knows what's going to happen. I don't think this is going to get taken down. If anybody's going to do the takedown, it's going to be Luque, but don't really think this is going to go there. It could, possibly could, but I'm going to stay away from this. I don't really like this fight too much. I want to watch, but I'm not going to put any money on this one. Okay, so stepping into the co-main event at 185 pounds, Kelvin Gastelum is taking on Darren Till. This is an exciting fight, I gotta say. Now, Gastelum's a little too high for my pockets, and I think just in general, I think he's a little bit too high. He's coming in as the favorite at a -200, and Till is the underdog at a +170, so I thought that should have been a little bit closer. Gastelum's coming off of losses, Till's coming off of losses. They match up very well. A lot of their stats are similar or the same, so I think it should have been a little closer, but it is what it is. Gastelum is 15-4 in his professional career, 10-4 in the UFC, coming off of a loss to Israel Adesanya. That was his last fight, actually. He's a well-rounded fighter, explosive fighter. He's very quick, especially for his size at 185 pounds. He moves like a lightweight. So, Till's got to really keep those hands up. Till loves putting those hands down, showboating, so he's got to really keep those things up, though. Moving on to Till, 17-2-1 in his professional career. He's coming off of 2 losses, including a KO loss to Masvidal. He's a great boxer, and he does have heavy hands, so Gastelum's also got to keep his hands up. Gastelum's got quite a sturdy chin on him, though. He can take some punishment, so I'm very curious on this one. Gastelum's too high for me until I don't like him enough. I think he used to talk a little too much, and he got shut down a couple times, so I think he's back on the let me be a little bit more humble horse. So I don't really think he has much to offer to Gastelum. Could take it home, could win, not sure, but I'm very excited to watch this fight either way. So moving on to the main event, can I get a drum roll, please? Nate Diaz versus Jorge Masvidal. Yes, this is the BMF, the one we've all been waiting for. That's right, it's going down. Diaz is coming in as the underdog at a +145, and Masvidal is the favorite at a -165. Nate Diaz has been around for a long time. He's 20-11 in his professional career, and he's got too many fights in the UFC. I didn't feel like counting them. He's just got too many. Originally coming from WEC, fighting out of Stockton. What more can I say about Nate Diaz that people don't know? Crazy fighter. In the octagon, out of the octagon. He seems really cool though. He seems like a funny guy. Second degree black belt under Cesar Gracie. He loves to box though. I mean, he uses his jiu-jitsu if it goes there and if he feels the need to. But he loves to box. He loves to stand up. And that's what I think the BMF is supposed to be about. It's supposed to be more of a gritty, grindy, street fight style. Stay on your feet. That type of thing. I don't know if it's going to stay there. I'm going to assume it's going to stay there. It's going to be like a strictly boxing match. But you never know. He has it for sure if it does go to the mat. He's coming off of an impressive win to Anthony Pettis, and I believe I took Pettis on that one. I've always been a fan of Nate Diaz. I knew he had some ups and downs, so I never like to take him usually, but I'm going to take one of these fighters. I'm going to tell you as soon as I get through with Masvidal. So Masvidal is 34-13 in his professional career. He's got way too many to count to in the UFC. He's been around a long time. Been around fighting since he's been a teenager. And if anybody's watched the Countdown show in the UFC Embeddeds, you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. And if you missed it, I have a compilation of him, Backyard Brawling. It's all over the place now. It's all over the internet. It's been around for a long time, but it's getting a lot of mainstream recognition now. Kimbo Slice, back in Miami, back in the day, they had that Backyard thing. Check it out, though. It's on the channel. It's on the compilations playlist. So Masvidal is coming off of 2 wins in a row. His last win was against Ben Askren with that flying KO knee, which was ridiculous. He made quick work of him. That was a very, very quick night for him. I know he set a record. I can't remember on the top of my head what it was. But yeah, he's got some heavy hands also with that street fighter mentality. Doesn't want to give up. Doesn't want to hold and grab. And I think that's why this BMF is so important. This BMF is so sought after. It's these fights that they're just going to stand there in the pocket and trade. Whether it goes to the ground or not, I feel it's going to be exciting, and that's what I think everybody's thinking. Now, on paper, Diaz has a higher output of punches, but I feel Jorge's got the speed advantage, which could really pose a problem. So at the end of the day, I like Masvidal. I like Diaz. On any other given day, I would take Masvidal, but I really like what Nate's been doing. I really like his thought process going into these fights and staying active and things like that. And I'm glad this fight wasn't canceled because that would have been a damn shame and that would have changed the whole entire energy of this event. But I'm going to take Nate Diaz. I think he's going to win by decision, and I'm going to take him $100 to make 145 just to win. Now, I want to remind everybody that's listening, and if you're new, I give the fighter. I usually just take the fighter unless it's a prop bet that I'm doing. I give how I think that fighter is going to win, but in no way, shape, or form is that going to affect my bet. I'm just going to take fighter, win or lose. So in this situation, I'm going to take Diaz for $100 to make 145. So let me quickly recap my bets. I have 4 of them. I'm going to take Dawodu Walker for 2-fighter parlay, 50 to make 90. I'm going to take Kevin Lee, 25 to make 35. I'm going to take Blagoy Ivanov, $60 to make about $50. And I'm going to take Nate Diaz as the dog, $100 to make 145. Okay, so after everything's said and done, my totals are $225 to make $320. And that's all I got.
Okay, so there you have it. Those are my picks. I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you guys took some notes. I've been on a roll, and I hope to keep it going for a while. New DraftKings game. Look out for it. I'm going to label it right down here. It's going to be UFC 244 Rich's Rant Radio Show. Now, I'm not sure if we're going to have a winner takes all. I'm trying to get 15 to 20 people in there. If I do get 20, we're going to probably have a first and a second place. So that'll all be in the title. Don't have to worry about it. Just to basically look for UFC 244 picks Rich's Rant Radio Show. And yeah, you'll see us there and join. $3 game. It's going to be all for fun, just like last time. I think the people that played had a lot of fun. I know I had a lot of fun with this one. So that's going to be it, guys. Hope you enjoyed the picks. Good luck. If you guys have anything different or anything else to say, remember to comment down below. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel, share this video, and if you liked or at least found it useful, smash that thumbs up. Give me a like, guys. Really appreciate it. So that's all I got. Until next time, as always, Rant and Rich signing out from sunny SoCal. I'm out of here. Latest.